I remember feeling content with my life, earning a decent income and managing well, until one day I was taken aback. My credit card company contacted me to inform me of a $91,000 charge. I was utterly shocked because I didn't recognize this transaction. Immediately, I halted the payment. Around the same time, my husband Jason, who was traveling, called me numerous times. Despite the chaos, I took control of the situation. At 31, I'm now a manager at a company, and Jason, who is also 31 and my college sweetheart, and I have been married for 2 years. While many of our friends chose to leave their jobs post-marriage, I continued in my role. I earn more than Jason, which sometimes worries me about our future, especially considering the stability of his income. We maintain our financial independence, we each manage our own money, and equally share household expenses. This arrangement allows me the freedom to spend my leftover income as I see fit, which usually doesn't bother me since we are both working and our life together is going smoothly. However, just recently, while on a train ride home, I realized I might have overspent a bit as I glanced over a debit alert on my phone. I thought about checking for any unused subscriptions that might still be charging me, but that idea quickly vanished as I struggled to remember the password to my credit card portal. Finding motivation to sort this out is tough, and reaching the help center is a challenge. They operate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays, exactly when most working people can't call. The long wait times during lunch hours don't help either. Yet, I'm reassured slightly by knowing that if there's a significant issue, like a charge over $40,000, the call center will reach out to me. This trust in the system makes me a bit complacent about contacting them myself. Meanwhile, online shopping serves as a brief escape from these and other work-related stresses. When I opened the package that had just been delivered, I briefly felt a surge of excitement. However, this feeling quickly dissipated as soon as I entered our living room. The scene inside shifted my mood from good to bad instantly. Socks scattered on the floor, empty cans on the table, and a random phone and sweater tossed carelessly on the couch. Yes, that was my husband lounging in a sweatshirt, seemingly oblivious to the mess. My husband has a habit of not cleaning up after himself, which often feels like he's purposely adding to the chaos at home. I pointed my phone at the couch and half-jokingly, half-exasperatedly said, "Hey, socks and empty cans, that's what I come home to? It's not that hard to clean up a bit or even make dinner if you're home before me." In response, he coolly remarked, "If you get home early, why don't you clean the house? Don't be so mad about it." This stung a bit. "I'm tired too when I get home," I retorted, trying to keep my tone light yet firm. "If you're not going to help clean, maybe you should consider whether you prefer working or doing chores." "Please, just drop it," he replied, not once but twice, signaling his annoyance without really feeling the weight of my words. I shot him a stern look, but he was too engrossed in his phone to notice my frustration. It felt unjust that I was shouldering a heavier load of chores and work. Was I being unreasonable? I wasn't sure, but I feared my confrontation might push him to be even more indifferent to our home's upkeep. Surprisingly, something shifted after our exchange. My husband started coming home late, even on days I arrived early. It seemed he had decided to put in extra hours at work. Perhaps, in his way, he was making an effort to address our imbalance. I was in a particularly good mood that day, so I threw myself into my chores with more energy than usual. My husband Jason has been really busy lately, which meant the housekeeping duties had mostly fallen to me. I hadn't really thought much about it until I found myself cleaning his room, which he hadn't tidied up in quite some time. As I entered his room, it was just as I expected. Empty bottles and cans were strewn everywhere, even on the bed. Amid the clutter, something caught my eye. There was a package, elegantly wrapped in gift paper, lying unobtrusively. Peering closer, I recognized the branding. It was from my favorite store. A flicker of excitement passed through me as I realized my birthday was just around the corner. Could this be a surprise gift from Jason? Despite my curiosity, I decided to respect the surprise. pretending I hadn't seen anything and leaving the package untouched. However, the gift never appeared as my birthday arrived and the day progressed. I casually asked Jason, "Do you know today's day?" "Oh, right, it's your birthday," he replied nonchalantly. "Did you forget?" I pressed, hoping for a hint of the surprise I had seen earlier. "No, I remember," he responded. "Aren't you happy with what I gave you last year? You know you're old enough not to need constant surprises." His words so casually delivered stung me. He went back to his room, leaving me puzzled and hurt. That mysterious box had sparked a glimmer of hope, but now it just made me uneasy. Suddenly, he announced a new twist. "I've got to go on a work trip abroad next week." This was unexpected. "A business trip to another country?" I repeated, incredulous. "Since when does your job involve international travel? You've never even been on a business trip outside the state." He simply replied, "They just gave me this assignment." The whole situation felt increasingly strange. What was really going on? I had been feeling quite accomplished lately, believing I deserved some recognition. "You should trust me," my husband had said, but his words were hard to take seriously after I'd discovered a mysterious gift-wrapped box in his room. On the day he left for his so-called business trip after waving him off in the early morning, my curiosity got the better of me. I searched under the bed where I'd seen the box, but it was gone. Doubt gnawed at me. This wasn't just a regular business trip, was it? With this uneasy thought, I dragged myself to work, but I was hardly in a state to focus. Several times, my hands just stopped moving, my mind replaying the recent events over and over. "Hey, are you okay? You seem out of it today," a coworker inquired. "Oh yeah, I just didn't get enough sleep," I replied, trying to brush it off with a lighthearted excuse. Just then, my phone vibrated sharply. A strange number flashed on the screen. Normally, I would ignore such calls, but something inside me urged me to answer it this time. "Excuse me, I need to take this," I said, stepping outside to talk. It was the credit card company's call center on the line. As I listened, a flurry of thoughts raced through my mind about my husband, our recent issues, the necessity of sharing my password, and then the representative's words cut through my confusion. "This is from our debt protection service. It seems there has been a charge exceeding $40,000 on your account," the voice explained calmly. I was stunned by the information, a mix of disbelief and concern overwhelming me. What on earth was going on? The conversation with the operator intensified when she dropped another bombshell. Yes, there was a charge for $91,000. "That's impossible! Wait a second!" I gasped, my heart racing. I dashed back to my desk, rifling through my wallet, only to find that my credit card was missing. "That's the card I meant to have with me," the operator clarified. "Pardon me, can you please halt that transaction?" I asked urgently, phone pressed tightly against my ear. "Yes, it's still pending, so we can stop it," she assured me, and a wave of relief washed over me. "And please, can you handle the stolen card issue immediately? I don't have it with me," I added. "Yes, sir, I'll take care of it right away," she responded. Even though the situation was partially resolved, the adrenaline didn't stop pumping through my veins. I hung up, my heart still pounding. "I'm sorry, I'm not in the right state to work. I need to leave early. It seems my credit card was stolen and almost misused, and I have a lot to sort out," I explained to my boss, who understood and allowed me to leave. I caught the train quickly, and as I checked my phone, I saw countless missed calls from my husband. It felt as though he was trying to confess something. I rushed home, threw off my shoes, dropped my bag, and went straight to my husband's office. His desk was cluttered, but what caught my eye was his search history, luxury cruises, and travel plans for two. These were definitely not work-related. I hadn't been invited to any such event. The so-called business trip was clearly a cover for something else. My heart sank as I realized the implications. Scrolling through my old emails for any clues, I noticed a name that stood out. Billy. "What the heck is this?" I muttered, my anger rising. I wanted to slam the keyboard in frustration, but instead, I forced myself to look for concrete proof of whatever was going on. My phone kept ringing incessantly as I pieced everything together. "Oh my God, just stop," I groaned, overwhelmed by the betrayal and chaos unfolding before me. In the turmoil, I decided to use the password given by the call center to check my credit card transaction history. I logged into my account and began scrolling through the records, my disbelief growing with each entry. There it was, a transaction for an expensive handbag brand, The Cruise. That was for business, entertainment, a fun time, Olivia. And the designer bag? Was Olivia happy with it? Are you seriously trying to justify this by pretending you don't know what's going on? I pushed further, my voice steady but filled with pain. My husband faltered, the reality of the confrontation setting in. I understand, he repeated, his voice tinged with desperation as he attempted to grasp at excuses. "I know everything," I stated clearly. "You tried to spend $91,000 on a luxury cruise and a vacation package for couples. You've been using my credit card to lavish Olivia with gifts." After a pause, he finally admitted, "I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry, but I can't come home until you reactivate the credit card." His plea hung in the air, absurd and almost pitiful. "Do you really think an apology and admission are enough to make all of this go away?" I asked, the weight of his betrayal pressing down on me. The conversation had shifted irrevocably from mundane marital grievances to a stark, painful reckoning. Feeling utterly betrayed, I told my husband, "Please spend the rest of your life at your resort," and then hung up the phone before he could respond. Almost immediately, my phone started buzzing nonstop. The incessant ringing drove me to the edge, prompting me to turn off the device to escape the noise. Soon after, an email notification popped up, informing me that my husband's return flight was scheduled for noon 5 days later. I seized this window of opportunity to set my affairs in order, deciding to resolve everything before he could set foot back home. The next day, as part of my plan, I began clearing out all his belongings from our house. On the second day, I gathered the courage to tell my in-laws about everything that had happened, showing them the proof of his infidelity and misuse of our finances. They were shocked and deeply apologetic. By the end of our conversation, they agreed to support me in getting a divorce, promised to ensure I would receive $2 million in alimony, and vowed to recover the funds my husband had frivolously spent. As the day of my husband's return approached, I received a call in the early evening from my in-laws, confirming that they had safely filed the divorce papers. Surprisingly, my soon-to-be ex-husband had only taken a credit card with him, leaving the rest of our finances untouched. The woman he was with, however, had given him $91,000. Enraged by the unfolding events, she changed her flight, departing for Singapore before him without his knowledge. I wondered why she hadn't just taken his plane ticket and visa and left him stranded. While pondering this, I learned from my in-laws that when my ex-husband returned to Singapore, he found the house empty and his connection to me severed, his calls going straight to voicemail. In a desperate attempt to find refuge, he went to my in-laws' house, where he faced significant repercussions for his actions. After everything that had unfolded, the final step was filing the divorce papers. My ex-husband had gotten himself into deeper trouble, and it didn't stop with our separation. The woman he had been seeing was now demanding that he return the $91,000 she had given him. I heard from my in-laws that after he repaid the money, they imposed strict conditions on him, almost as if he were back in high school. He was essentially under house arrest with a 15-hour curfew and his every move being monitored by his own family, ensuring he paid off all the money he owed. In the midst of all this, I took legal action myself, filing a $15,000 claim against the other woman involved in the affair. With help from my in-laws, I gathered the necessary information to go after her financially, and once I did, it felt like the last piece of this painful puzzle was finally falling into place. It was a long and exhausting process, but when the claim went through, I felt a sense of closure, The legal side of things had been resolved, and it was time for me to focus on moving forward. When I returned to work the next day, my colleagues and bosses welcomed me back with surprising warmth and concern. Many of them had heard about my situation, and their kindness was palpable. "Hey, are you okay? If you want to talk about anything, I'm here," one of my colleagues offered gently. It was comforting to know I wasn't alone. I replied with a grateful smile, "Thank you, I'm doing all right. Just trying to get back into the swing of things. Maybe we can grab a drink after work? I'd appreciate the company." It felt good to make plans and to look forward to simple pleasures like a night out with friends. That evening, as we gathered at a local bar, the camaraderie felt soothing. We shared stories and laughs, and although the shadow of recent events lingered, it was overshadowed by the immediate warmth of friendly faces. As I sipped my beer, the bitterness of the past few months seemed to dissolve slightly with each sip. I poured out my heart about the ordeal, and my colleagues listened empathetically. "I'm just looking forward to putting all of this behind me," I confessed as the evening wound down. "I think I'm ready to move forward, to focus on the positives that the future holds." They raised their glasses to that, a silent acknowledgement of my resilience. "To new beginnings," they echoed. As I left the bar that night, a sense of closure mingled with newfound hope. The support of my work community had buoyed my spirits, and I felt a deep appreciation for their presence in my life. It was a reminder that even in the aftermath of betrayal and heartache, the kindness of others could light the way forward. As I looked ahead, I felt a cautious optimism. It was true that the past could not be changed, but the future was still mine to shape. With the legal matters settled and my boundaries firmly redrawn, I was slowly rebuilding a sense of normalcy. The path ahead wouldn't be without its challenges, but I felt prepared to face them, bolstered by the support of friends and a renewed sense of self. Indeed, it seemed that better days were on the horizon.